This is the Mr. Chris MIE Motivational Podcast, and this is episode 11. Let's do this.
All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up, go up, go up, go up, go up. Nothing can stop me, I'm all the way up.
Yo. What is the business today? Yo, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the MIE Motivational Podcast. And I'm so excited because it's been a minute since I brought you a podcast, but I'm ready. I mean, I've actually been doing a lot of traveling, just been doing some school assemblies. I was out on the East Coast. Shouts out to all the schools in Maryland, went to in Connecticut, in New York, and had a good time just motivating the kids. We danced. They were all, every one of the schools, great listeners. The message was received well, and we had an overall good time. I did a lot of driving. I actually drove from Nashville. I think my first stop was in Maryland. And then after that, went from Maryland, got in late that night on, I think it was like a Thursday, and got up, did the school, drove right to Connecticut. Then I got to come back to the little Airbnb in Connecticut, get a little rest, and then go right to New York from there, and then from New York, brought it right back to Nashville. So I was wanting to do a podcast in the middle of the assembly tour, but I was just exhausted. I was like, yo, I'm not even going to be able to deliver any content because I'm just thinking about these drives that I got ahead of me. But as soon as I got back, of course, when we go to the dance studio, we're always on the grind, and there's always something new that you have to do. Always a new challenge that you have to face. Always a new dance routine that you have to do. Always something that's right in front of you that right when it happens, I'm like, that's a podcast. So this one I've had in my head for about a week. And so I'm ready to deliver it. Now, the title of this podcast is How to Go to the Next Level. So whatever that next level is for you, you decide what that is. You know what that is. That's, for everybody it's something different. But if you're trying to improve yourself, there should be another level, right? You can't just stay where you are, no matter where that is, no matter what profession you're in, no matter what you're doing. There's going to be a place where you are. You're going to have your goals and your vision of where you want to go. And there's going to be some steps that you're going to have to take to get there. I think we're all in the same boat when it comes to that. It's like, this is where I am. This is where I want to be. And then you ask the question, how do I get there? And so I believe there was a question that was asked in class that when I thought about it, I was like, the question is not just for this particular dance move, but I think, as I always say, dance lessons teach life lessons. So this question is something that I can ask myself when it comes to being a business owner, when it comes to being a motivational speaker, when it comes to doing music, like whatever genre you're in, whatever you're doing, wherever you're trying to improve on, there's some questions that you're going to have to ask to get, and then answer those to get to the next level. So, title of this podcast again, How to Go to That Next Level. Now, you can get this podcast on Podomatic.com, iTunes, and Stitcher Radio. You can also go to my website, www.mrchrishhiphopdance.com, and I have links to the podcast there. So definitely check the podcast out. Share it, like, comment, subscribe, and keep pushing for the positive message of the MIE Nation to motivate, encourage, and educate, or to motivate, inspire, encourage, and then educate, and then enhance and whatever else. Me and my wife always trip about what the E is. But, hey, be excellent. I mean, it could be, whatever you feel. So here we go. How to get to that next level. Now, the question came actually from my daughter, who's also a student at the studio. And we were trying to get, I talk a lot on this podcast about trying to get better at whether it's the dancers being flexible or popping. For many of you, if you listen to this, you have no idea what popping is. It's just a dance form where you tense and release your muscles, period. But you have to do that when you're hitting these different positions, right? So whatever the position is, whatever the choreography is, whatever the dance is, you have to do that dance along with tensing and releasing your muscles. So it's not easy at all. It's not easy. It's challenging. It's something you have to work on. It's just like flexibility, where you have to do it every day to get better. So my daughter says, we're doing a class, and I was going through how to, pop your arms, how to pop your legs, how to do a chest pop, how to do your shoulders. And then once we broke it down each individual part, I was like, now this is how you do it all together. And that was where everybody's like, whoa, 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 whoa. I mean, that's all together? Like, what's the deal? And so my daughter just flat out said, how do you pop your shoulders and your arms at the same time, right? And so right there, I was like, that's my first point. That right there, if you want to get to the next level, the number one thing that you're going to have to do is you have to learn how to ask the right questions. Right? How do I pop my arms and shoulders at the same time? Then from there, because what was happening before is I would give out all of this information, and then they would just look at me like what? And then not do it. And then almost like fake it. Because with popping, you can fake it where you're like kind of bouncing your arms around, or you just bouncing around, but you're not really squeezing your muscles. Like, shouts out to Megan, our contemporary teacher. She took my hip hop class the other day, and all I had to do, now, of course, she's a teacher, and she's an advanced dancer. She's an adult. So when you say squeeze your arms, she's going to squeeze her arms. She's not going to stand there and look at you and not do it. But the fact that she did it, at the end, she was like, my arms are sore. I'm like, exactly. Like, that's how every class should be when if you're studying or you're training in popping dance, right? You should feel it, unless you're faking it. If you fake it, you feel nothing. It's just like life, though. If you fake it till you make it, and you ain't doing it the 100%, you're not going to get the results at the end. So it's going to show up at the end. But if you put in the work at the beginning, you'll see the work at the end, right? So asking the right question. So you want to ask yourself, when you're trying to get to that next level, what question am I not asking? Like, what do I need to ask to get me closer to my goal? And I guarantee you, now check this out, you are always one question away from the breakthrough. One question away, one conversation, one question can change everything. I've seen it time and time again in my life, from achieving my goals to just something simple like, how do I put up a piece of drywall in my kitchen when there's a hole in there from the shower upstairs leaking, right? And wherever you ask that question, like, you might be on YouTube and you ask that question. You might be on Google. You might be fortunate enough to have a Mr. Jimmy that lives next door. Shouts out to Mr. Jimmy. He's my man. He's next door. Everything that I don't know. Now, there's so much that I don't know in this world. Like, I know dance. I do dance. Right? I love dance. But besides that, there's a whole bunch of things, just regular things that I have no clue how to do. But you know what I do? I go over and I'll ask him one thing, and he'll just be like, got it. And I always say, man, like, why didn't I do that earlier? Why didn't I just go ahead and go right to Mr. Jimmy instead of stressing about it, right? So one question away from getting to that next level. All right, number 2. So here's the second way to get to that next level. So number one is you gotta ask the right questions. Number two, when you get the answer, work on it. Don't just listen and do nothing. One more time. When you get the answer, so you got to the point where you found out what to ask. You hit that question on the head. But then when you get it, don't just hear the information and do nothing, but start working on just that. Now, a lot of times we'll get, I don't know if you're like me, but you'll have 50 different things in the course of a day that you need to be working on. And what happens is at the end of the day, you'll be like, I was running all over the place, trying to do this, this, and this, but I never focused on that one area that I needed help in. But I spent most of my time thinking about it or worrying about it. So when you get the answer, just work on it. Don't just listen to the information and do nothing. And check it out. When you work on that one thing, people can see the difference. People can see the difference. Like when my students are stretching, I can tell. Like my wife and I will be like, you've been stretching at home. Your moves, it looks like it. Not just at the studio, but you've been putting in OT. People can tell. Another part of this story with the isolations and the popping that my daughter Jonna had. So she was at school. She told me another story being at school, and she said they were in jazz class. And she said in class, the teacher said something about doing like some isolations, and but the teacher was meaning do jazz isolations, like you isolate your hips and your shoulders move. It's like this whole thing that you do. And then there were some students in Jonna's class that was like, oh, I didn't know you meant that. I thought you were talking about what the hip hop dancers do. And then they started like mimicking like popping and waving moves, but basically doing it where like they were saying I can't really do it, so I'm just gonna not make fun of it, but just do it like it looks something like this, but it literally looks nothing like that, right? And so Jonna's in class, and she said she just was kind of like oh, like this, and she did a wave, and they went bananas. They was like, oh, do it again, right? Now that particular wave, we've been working on that since Jonna was little. Like the wave, I have a song called the Wave Song, knuckles, fists, wrist, elbow. It walks you through it. But I always see just random times like Jonna will be like working on, doing the wave, and then lately she's been working on popping her muscles and shoulders at the same time. But when you do that, people can see the difference, and especially in the dance community. Like the dance community is like, if you got it, they will give it up to you, right? Like it's like all love. They'll be like, yo, you killed that, you murdered that. Like that's one of the reasons why I'm doing public speaking now, why I'm traveling around, teaching at dance studios, doing schools, and I feel confident about it because I got that confidence from working behind the scenes on my dancing. And I got the confidence by when I got in front of people showing what I worked on behind the scenes, right? And letting other people be able to see the difference and validate, like, yes, he has been working on that. You can see it. It's sick. There's improvement. So whatever the answer is, put in your work. Don't just listen to the information. Like, even like I talk all the time about me loving podcasts. I can consume podcasts all day long. But sometimes just listening to the information, sometimes I get so much information, I'm like an information hoarder where it all goes in, but I'm not putting anything out. So that's why, I even have to push myself to do this podcast. And I was like, there's things in you that you have to say, but don't just get used to hearing other people tell you what to do. And then, because sometimes I think my mind gets tricked, where if I hear it and I'm shaking my head like, yeah, that's good, I'm like faking myself out, thinking that I'm actually doing it, and I have done nothing yet except listen to the information, but I haven't applied the information. So when you get the answer, work on it. Don't just listen and do nothing, but put in that work. Here's the last one, number 3. Don't let doubt stop you. So when you get in the habit of you identify the next level you want to get to, the first thing that's going to happen, you're going to say, I can't do this. doubt's gonna sneak in. You're gonna be like, yo, I don't know if I have what it takes, right? Don't let it stop you, because guess what? You do have what it takes. Everything you need is inside of you. All you got to do is release it. And if it is a weakness that's in there, work on that. Like, double down on your strong points, work on your weak points, and deliver. Because you have what's in there, but don't let doubt stop you. So we were at the studio, again, with Jonna. So we've already went through, she wanted to know how to pop your shoulders at the same time. So, and then she's working on it. She goes to school. People can see the difference. I even seen that, like, she has a contemporary solo this year. She starts doing a solo. My wife choreographed it. There's a whole section that has popping, ticking, waving in it. And when I hadn't seen the solo before. So when I seen it, it hit. It's like me and my man Michael. We was in class looking, both of us, like, I teach popping, waving. He's a popper waver. It's what we do. So when you see somebody hit it and it's sick, you immediately just be like, woo, that's cold, right? You can't help it. It's like a reflex. When you don't see it, you don't hate on nobody, or you don't put them down, but it just doesn't make you just like, oh, like that, right? So she did that, and immediately I'm like, oh my goodness, like, that section is dope. Again, people can see. But that same person, my same daughter who took the challenge, who asked the right question, who worked on it, all of a sudden it came to another skill. And this skill is called the rubber band. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, you see me post like these different things. And if you follow the studio on Instagram, which is Nashville School of Dance and Music, you'll see things that we do in class. Matter of fact, go right now and follow. Go to Instagram, follow Nashville School of Dance and Music, and also follow at Mr. Chris Hip Hop, because you're gonna see some of these stories that I tell you, some of the posts, you'll look at, oh, that's what he's talking about. It'll kind of make sense. So we start working on this other skill. It's called the rubber band. And it's basically like you're standing up. You literally jump back like you're about to do a back handspring, but you don't. Like, you're real low. You land on your shoulders and hands, and you pop yourself back up on your feet. Now it's kind of scary, and then we got the mat out, and we were working on it. And that same person, the same person, Jonna Cabana, the podcast was inspired by her, but yet here it is. It shows you that these are struggles that we all have to go to every day. Once you win in one area, something else is going to come. It's going to challenge you to get to that next level. It's what life is about. It's what happens. So the same person was like, she did it, landed on her back instead of her hands and shoulders. It hurt. And she was like, I just can't. And here's the thing about Jonna. If she ever says, my wife and I was talking about this, if she ever says she can't do something and she decides that, she won't do it, right? So that's another thing. Like, you can psych yourself out from getting to the next level just by saying you can't do it. But don't let doubt step in. Keep pushing. So here's what she did. She kept trying. I was like, no, you got to do it. So I even came over and said, Michael, come on, let's give her a spot. So we gave her a spot where when she jumped back, we caught her and then guided her back. So she put her hands on there and then brought her back to her feet so she can feel it. Here's another thing, dude. This is a side note. Whenever you start to go to that next level, guess what? There's going to be people that will help you. Take that help. Receive that help. It's almost like the universe brings it to you. You won't be alone. But if you never try, if you never take that step, no one will ever help you, right? You won't see it show up. But when you do, it's like a saying that I always hear. They say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, right? So when you're ready and you jump out there, you literally jump back on your hands, somebody will be there to help guide you, to teach you, to coach you. So, and even with this podcast, like, the reason I'm doing this podcast is not just to tell you stories about dance, but I want this to be something that you can listen to, not just my students, but people all over the world, teachers and people that don't even have anything to do with dance, but people who are just trying to improve themselves. I want you to listen to this, and maybe through one of my stories, it might help you go, yo, I can do this. You know what I mean? If it does that for one person, I've done my job. Like that's what this is all about. So don't let doubt stop you. Keep pushing through. So she did. Not only did she do it, she got it, and I was like, that was it. She got, and then it rubbed off in the room. My other daughter, Cora, she didn't have it at first. Then she got it. You know what I mean? And the energy in the room, it just produced more positivity. And so then we just busted it out to 21 Savage bank account and did the rubber band move on. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they hit the rubber band in a row. Go to my Instagram page, check it out. It's dope. I'm like, oh, this is sick, right? But they had to do one thing that day. They had to overcome that fear. They had to not let doubt stop them. So here it is. Let me do a recap. If you want to get to that next level, whatever it is, number 1, you got to ask the right questions. Number 2, when you get the answer, work on it. Don't just listen to the information and do nothing. And number 3, once you get the information and you've worked on it, don't let that little voice of doubt come in and be like, yo, you can't do this. You ain't talking about nothing. You scared. You ain't finna do nothing, right? Just throw that out. Keep doing what you got to do. Keep pressing forward. And then what happened? Next thing you know, like for that, they didn't have the rubber band. The next level was the rubber band. Because then the choreographers, like my wife would be like, can you imagine if the whole team, right? That's the vision. That's the next level. And so, yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Like I said, you can get it on iTunes and Stitcher Radio, Podomatic.com. Thank you so much for downloading the MIE podcast. I hope you are enjoying it. Give me some feedback. Shoot me an email, Chris@MrChrisHipHopDance.com. If there's anything you want me to hit on. If you're looking to book speakers and dance, like if you want to have like that kind of assembly in your school, definitely give me a shout out. Shoot me an email, and you can also go to the Academic Entertainment website. That's Academic Entertainment. And look me up on there, and we can work that out. So we'd love to do it. All right, other than that, that's all the information I have for today. I hope that it does you a little bit of good, and keep living your life, keep doing what you do. And your boy is out.
All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up, go up, go up, go up, go up. Nothing can stop me, I'm all the way up.